this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. Today I would like to make a card for a friend who loves sewing. So I recently purchased this stamp set here, second hand from the MTS, as in Made to Surprise, Addicts Anonymous Facebook group. That's a good source if you're looking for Made to Surprise products, but at a reduced price. Quite a few people are just stashing their collections there. This one here, though, as I found it after purchasing, is not the seller's fault. This was the first release of this stamp set. It's the Sewing and More, and this was released without the dies. So you might have that set with the dies. Either way is fine. I'm finding a way today around not having the dies to go with this. I would like to use the sewing machine, and I've already stamped it and heat embossed it. I stamped it with my VersaFine Clear Warm Breeze and used some clear embossing powder over that. And I thought I want to create like a background paper, and I thought I'd just go with the scissors here. I might add some buttons or pins as well, but this led me to the idea that either if you've got the outline dies, you can recreate that, but because I don't have them, I reminded myself that I've got a stencil here also with some sewing motifs. Let me just move that out of the way. This came with a sewing magazine. I'm sure this was gifted to my local craft group, and I said I'll take care of it. I've got a few others. This is from Debbie Shaw, and this has got a pair of scissors on it. It's also got this sewing dummy here. There's a sewing machine at the bottom, some fabric dress, and these are also some what do you call them, thread bobbins. Not quite sure what this is though. It's like a thingy with a hook, but never mind. So I would like to use this stencil to create my background together with the little stamps. I have already cut my piece, which is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I know I want to mat that before it goes actually onto the 5 by 7 card. And as you can see here, just to make sure I'm not accidentally going into the other areas here, I've just put some scrap paper around it here, just stuck it down with some removable tape so I can easily move in this area without having any residue outside that. And I'm just using this to basically ink up this motif on my piece of cardstock. I want to go off the edges a little bit as well, because I want this to look like a continuous piece of paper. And I have chosen the Lavinia Elements Blue Atoll. I'm just using my normal ink blending brush. You could use a stencil brush if you wanted to, but I'm just going in boldly. And this is not too juicy, so I can go straight to the paper, and I'm just filling this up. Just going around in circular motions, making sure I'm reaching all the areas. So, and I'm just sticking with one colour today. Obviously you could have these in different colours. I was thinking earlier maybe colours of the rainbow, and I'm just adding these. I don't want these to overlap, but that could be a good pattern as well. So I'm going to continue doing this, turning it around, getting different angles, and then I'll show you how I add my stamps. I forgot to say, if you cut your own stencil with the dies that would come with the stamp set, then you can use some vellum or copy paper potentially, because it is a little bit see-through, but obviously you can't see it as easily as you can with a normal stencil material. But you could also use a laminated sheet or a laminating sheet, because that would allow you to, you know, look through this, and yeah. But obviously if you use the outline die for the scissors, you wouldn't have these areas here, so you might have to play around a little bit and make some connecting pieces. With other pieces it's sort of more obvious, like if you've got these, but I quite like the idea of having these scissors because if you just got the outline, it's still obvious what it is, whereas if you have another motif, like I don't know how the outline die would be, whether it would cut all the way down, it might be a bit tricky to tell what it is, but you can always cut your own by hand as well anyway. So I'm now adding the scissors from the stamp set. I haven't used them yet, so I'm just stamping them off on the side, making sure it looks good. I see I need a little bit more pressure on the top there, and I'm using the VersaFine Clear Warm Breeze again because that goes lovely with the blue atoll. And what I want to do with this here is to overlap that with the stenciled scissors to create a nice background. So I'm going to do this off camera again. You can see that again I will be going off, and I might, if I find I've got some areas where I need something else, I might come in with either the pins, I quite like this one here that's got the heart on it, or maybe even some buttons. I was on the fence whether I should introduce another colour for the spool stamp here, but I just decided to stamp with the blue atoll. You can stamp with the Elements inks. They're not as juicy as the VersaFine Clear, so they don't stay as wet as long, and they're not as crisp, but they're still good enough. So I just use that one, and then the spool blends into the background quite nicely. And I didn't want to overdo it, so I've left a few little white spots. I was on the fence, but that's just an idea for you, whether I want to ink blend around the edges. You could get some dimension with it, but I've got another idea what to do with this just to bring some interest to this panel. But I'm just setting this aside for a moment to dry. So for my already stamped and heat embossed sewing machine, I have stamped this a second time just on some cardstock. Copy paper might have even been better, and I've just cut the middle bit out. I cut through the cardstock here, but I put some tape over that so that I've got a mask here to ink blend round or on the inside of the sewing machine. I might not have done a super job. If I look at this now here, I might have to trim this a little bit, but I'm not too bothered about that. I do like to keep it simple. So because obviously you can colour this if you want to, if you enjoy colouring. I sometimes do. I've got phases where I thoroughly enjoy it, and then I've got days when I think like, nah, I'm not in the mood, and I'm going to do the shortcut. So I'm going to get my ink blending brush out again. I was on the fence whether I wanted to introduce another colour, but I think at the moment I will just stick with my blue atoll. So I'm just going to use this mask to ink up that sewing machine, which at the moment is on a piece of scrap paper. I will cut this out potentially with a rectangular die. Problem with having thicker cardstock as a mask is I sometimes might not catch the edges properly, and I'm just holding this down. Trying not to shift it. So I'm trying to get to the edge as close as possible. If I've got a little bit of a white halo, I don't mind that. Sometimes I just like to have a play, and I like to show you techniques you haven't seen before, hopefully. I like to teach new things, although some techniques I come back to quite frequently. So, and I think what I will do here though is, I'm trying not to shift this, come in with a second colour just to have a little bit of dimension on this. I have chosen the Mermaid here, which is a little bit of a greenish blue, but I think that might be quite nice. Again, it's not very juicy, so I should get away with just going straight onto this. And I really just want to catch the edges there, which is a bit tricky with a big brush. This is one of the few brushes I haven't changed yet. For the others, I changed to smaller brushes. Now I might come in with a smaller stencil brush. Bear with me. I've got this Lavinia stencil brush. Might be a little bit better. Yeah. It's a bit patchy with this one. I find it's not as juicy. And I've just got another idea, because these inks are water reactive and I've done the heat embossing underneath, so I could come in with my water bottle and spritz this a little bit for some texture, which I think I will do. So just got my water bottle here, holding it away as far as I can because I really just want a mist. Nevertheless, I've got a big of a splodge there, but never mind. So if I take this off now, you can see I've got a bit of a halo on the side, and I've also not paid attention to where this piece wasn't very wide, but I see how I will cut this out. And where I've got the water on here now, don't know if the camera picks it up, I'm leaving that to dry. I might have to put or stamp a little embellishment on that, but I'm leaving that to dry for the moment, and then I'll have a think. Well, I already had a thought what I do with the front panel. I have cut my mat to go underneath, so this card is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and I've cut the matting layer to 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. Make sure when you cut these that they match your cardstock. I've got shopboard cardstock, but the matting layer fits on there perfectly, so make sure that before you stick the layer and the mat down, that this matches your card base. So my original thought was to cut this diagonally, shift this up, shorten this a little bit, but I thought, no, I can make it easier. I can put a strip of cardstock across. You can put that sideways, or you can put that at an angle. But then I thought it would actually be quite nice if I had this as a landscape card, because I have already cut my image out. In the end, I decided for a round shape. I could have done a rectangle, but I actually wanted something to break this shape up. So this just about fitted onto my scrap piece of card, so I had to cut the corners off a little bit. I'll show you in a moment what I'm doing with that. So I thought I would then place the piece sideways here, and then the topper can sit on the top and I can have a sentiment there. But I thought I needed to break up this cardstock. This is a blue pearlescent one, which is really pretty. So I thought, yeah, just put some white paper on here. I'm just showing you these so you can see what you can do with your stash. But then I thought, with this being a card about sewing, wouldn't it be nice if instead of the white piece, I actually added some ribbon? I've got plenty of that, so this is what I'm going to do. I've already cut this strip to the width of this piece, so 6 3/4, and this is an inch wide. You can have any width you like, you can have it slimmer or longer. So I decided to place this on here. So I bought tons of these for the wedding crafts. So I'm cutting my piece a little bit longer, and I'm putting some double-sided tape on the back. You can use some red tape if you like, but because I'm sticking this down anyway afterwards, I think I will be fine with this. So you've got an inside and an outside. The shiny one needs to stay outside. And I'm just placing this here in the middle. So because this is such a long piece, I will put a little bit of adhesive, but I use my adhesive roller along here. I don't like to use wet glue because that usually shows through it. Sorry about the rummaging. I'm just using my permanent one, so I will definitely put a little bit here where I know I will most likely have my topper anyway. And I will have a little bit at the end. I don't want to have it in the middle because I would like to tie a bow there in a moment. Could have used that tape on the back as well, but this is a little bit sturdier, I think. So I'm just pulling it tight and then I can cut it off. So as you can see, I've still got this here. So I'm just checking where my topper will sit. Here it is. So this will sit about here. So I want my bow to be about there. So I'm just taking a longish piece, just feeding that through. And I think all I'm going to do, rather than making it a proper bow, is to tie a knot. I've recently seen that on a card and I really liked the look of that, and it makes it so much easier than to actually have a proper bow. So this is, I might have pulled it a little bit too much, but I think once I've stuck it down it'll be fine. So I'm going to cut this at an angle, but I'm also coming in with my lighter to singe the edges. A bit shorter here. So can't see the flame of this, but there is heat, and I can see there when it starts to crease that this is sealed off, and then it won't fray. So, and I can now stick this onto my card, stick this on the mat, and then I will show you in a second what I do with a topper. So I've stuck my panels down, but when I put the topper on here now, I thought it was getting a little bit lost. I don't really like the look of that, but it is okay if you like it. So I decided to go a size bigger with my nesting dies, which is fairly big, but I think this looks so much better because it frames the image, and I really like the look of that. It's the same pearlescent cardstock. I was lucky just to find one more bit here in my stash. The other thing I wanted to show you, oh by the way, if you hear some rustling, it's my cat. He's in my suitcase trolley that was still on the floor from when I came back from holiday 2 days ago, and he's getting, yeah, comfy in there somehow. So this is the little stain I had from when I had the water, and I already used my stencil brush and added a little bit more colour in there, but I wasn't quite happy with that. If I hadn't heat embossed the image, I would have stamped a happy birthday there. I found a nice little stamp, but it would have gone over the heat embossing, and I wasn't quite sure whether the heat embossing would hold the colour or whether that would wipe off. So I've just found a little random heart stamp. This is from a Care Bear set, so I thought I'd just stamp this on there, also with a warm breeze, just as an image. And just doing one there, and I'm going to do a second one slightly offset to the bottom here. It's actually fairly thick stamp, but I think that's okay like this, and it looks like a pattern and it takes the focus away from that bit. So I haven't quite decided yet what I want to do with the sentiment. If I hadn't put down the ribbon, I could have put the sentiment there easily. I didn't want to introduce another strip with a sentiment, so either I find a happy birthday to fit on there or even in the middle, or I'm going to leave it off and will actually just put it on the inside. My card is finished. I did find a tiny happy birthday stamp there from an old stamp set. I added some blue shimmer pen here. This is not available anymore. This is an old Spectrum Noir one, which is a blue pen, but you can also use some shimmer pen because I had the blue underneath. That would have moved it about a little bit. Yeah, and I popped the topper on some foam pads just for a little bit of dimension. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I think this is really nice. I sometimes like to do something like that, you know, creating my own design paper just to do some random stamping. I always compare a little bit with, you know, potato stamping that you did. Well, I did as a child. It sort of gets you back to basics. And yeah, I'm really pleased with this card, and I'm sure the recipient will be as well. Yeah, and if you like this card, don't forget to like this video. If you'd like to, I'd be very happy if you subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon with another video.